Well, Donald Trump Jr. is coming to do a tour of Australia in early July, only a month away, and the tickets, unsurprisingly, are selling like hotcakes. So much so the promoters have had to add extra tickets. You can get meet and greet tickets, there's even backstage passes, and of course, plenty of the normal seats. The tour website is Trump Live, www.trumplive.com.au. So after the show's over, get onto that. And if you want some common sense and a chance to see and hear or even meet Donald Trump Jr., this is it. That's your chance. Who knows? Outsiders might even pop up there. Well, as I said last week, we are now officially in Pride Month, and it hasn't started too well. We learnt yesterday that JP Morgan just downgraded Target's stock after its longest losing streak in 23 years, citing too many concerns rising. That was out of the story I gave you last week about Target running their whole Pride Month specials. Happy Pride Month, Target. Even Elon Musk has got in on the act, warning that it won't be long before there are class action lawsuits by shareholders against the company and the board of directors for the destruction of shareholder value. This is how this madness has to be defeated. This follows the latest update on Bud Light, with Anheuser-Busch, reportedly the parent company, losing $27 billion in market value thanks to its attempt to force transgender ideology onto America's beer-drinking men and women in this ad a few weeks ago.
This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it. Check out my Instagram story to see how you can enjoy March Madness with Bud Light and maybe win some money too. Love ya! Cheers!
Well, that was Dylan Mulvaney, the transgender star of the Bud Light ad, and many others. But I had to laugh this week when Dylan Mulvaney posted this particular revelation.
So I recently told my parents that I may be a little bit romantically interested in women. And that was a big shock for them, considering the past 10 years of coming out as gay, then queer, then non-binary, then trans. And I think it was just a bit of a shock. So I tell my dad, and he goes, well, I would love to see you get a woman pregnant. And I said, oh, no. She would be getting me.
She would be getting me pregnant. It looks like somebody may have been taking the mickey all along. Billions of dollars lost. Who knows? Despite all that, the Pride Month bandwagon trundles on. Walmart, the major American retailer, is selling a whole raft of LGBTQ stuff in their stores, including apparently a breathable chest binder aimed at trans, lesbian and tomboys. The binder, offered online, features pictures of a young girl modelling the product. Chest binders are, of course, the first step in the transgender journey for girls to become boys, and are used by girls to compress their breasts in order to create a masculine appearance. Further down that particular journey, surgeons happily chop off those breasts. That's what this is actually all about. And this flag here, this transgender flag, that flag, is advocating and promoting that agenda. That's not the old rainbow flag of the LGBT lot that we all voted for in same-sex marriage. This is the transgender flag. You might think that it's terrific, or you might not. But just be clear what it actually means and stands for. The backlash against Target and North Face and others in the States hasn't stopped the onslaught of trans and gay propaganda aimed at children. Yesterday, the Washington, D.C. Public Library hosted a children's pride parade for babies, toddlers, children and teens aged 0 to 18. Because, 0 years old kids, they need to be purged of any homophobic or transphobic sentiments, surely. In Britain, The Sun is reporting on a woke health centre where the doctors ask parents if their newborn babies are trans or non-binary. One of the world's largest corporates, Microsoft, meanwhile, has partnered with one of the world's most determined LGBT organisations to ensure their ideology permeates every teenage boy's Xbox video games. In the US, the Secretary of Defense has jumped on the bandwagon and is claiming that LGBT troops add to America's strength. I'm sure the Chinese Communist Army must be bemused by that. And the US Embassy to the Vatican, to the Holy See, is also flying the transgender flag for the entire month of June. Remember, this is the same ideology that only last week caused a furore by using trans activists to openly mock the crucifixion of Christ. Meanwhile, this week we also learned that the head of a German facility that carries out so-called gender-affirming care has published a study of transgender people and found that the level of life satisfaction in that group was not increased for those who had undergone gender-affirming surgery as compared to those who had not. A much older study published in 2011 of Swedes who had undergone sex reassignment in prior decades, taken in transgender-friendly Sweden, concluded, quote, persons with transsexualism after sex reassignment have considerably higher risks for mortality, suicidal behaviour and psychiatric morbidity than the general population. End of quote. This is the reality behind what we are encouraging with a month-long propaganda campaign in schools and elsewhere. In my opinion, it's a disgrace, and future generations will look back in horror at what we pushed on the children of the 2020s. An article earlier this year quoted Jamie Reed, a far-left LGBT activist and whistleblower who worked for 4 years at the Washington University Transgender Center in St. Louis Children's Hospital, saying that, quote, a common tactic was for doctors to tell the parent of a girl, you can either have a living son or a dead daughter. How sick and how cruel is that? As I say, this is the sort of emotional abuse being inflicted on who knows how many parents and children in the name of this political ideology. And then we also this week got this insane story about a teenage school girl in Oklahoma being beaten up by a fellow student, a biological male who identifies as a girl, in the girls' toilets. What is so appalling about this story is that under Oklahoma law, kids have to use the bathroom of their biological, i.e. their real sex, but the school is claiming they had no idea that the girl, the she, the bully, was actually a male.
The week prior, the Friday before the fight, the male student was pulled out of the girl's bathroom and searched for weapons based upon a complaint that he had made a threat against my client's daughter. And at that point, my client's daughter actually told the vice principal that the student was in fact a boy.
Seriously. Meanwhile, in Vermont, where the law is different, a group of young teenage girls are not only feeling threatened in their locker room by a biological male, they are being threatened by their school with being formally charged with hate speech and bullying. Charges which could then prevent them getting into certain colleges and so on, simply for speaking up.
After a little while, the student did leave, but it took a little bit for the student to leave, and a lot of us were not comfortable with that situation, and it's happened before, and so we want it just to be changed, really.
In a locker room, it's made specifically for girls, and so having a male with a penis in there, it just felt wrong.
When you tried to talk to your school officials about what happened, what did they say?
When I tried to talk to them, they just shut me down and said it was a law, there was nothing they could do, and that I should go somewhere else if I feel uncomfortable.
Blake says she's not only failing to receive support from the school, she's also potentially facing punishment.
I have harassment, hazement, and bullying charges.
These charges could go on her permanent record, and if they do, they might impact her future college acceptances, whether she can participate in an exchange program, and more.
What did I say about a war on women? Unbelievable. Yet throughout the month of June, and if my experience in London last year is any guide, through much of July as well, our cities and schools and shops and corporations and streets and public transport will be festooned with the flag of, here it is, whatever.
2S LGBTQI plus rights.
That's it, 2S LGBTIQ plus. I always get it wrong. Thank you, Justin. By the way, on a completely unrelated matter, indeed, I have absolutely no idea why the thought ever popped into my mind. These things just happen, I guess. But fans of 20th century history will know that it was Benito Mussolini, a former socialist, who went on to invent the doctrine of fascism, in essence, the marriage of authoritarian collectivist politics and big business, which together create an elite ruling power who impose their political ideology upon all of society through big business and the education system. Ring any bells?